All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another new episode of A Whole New World with me, your host, Jacob New. Well, we're here to put a positive spotlight on positive things happening in the neighborhood and developing that positive mindset. So, we have a special joke for you guys today in honor of Halloween coming up in the next couple of weeks. And the joke is, what kind of a pumpkin protects a castle? A royal gourd. Pumpkin jokes, pumpkins. Yeah, I'm full of them. And so are books. We are very fortunate to have Mr. Daniel Reaser here. So I want to say thank you for being on the show today.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me.
And you are with AXON Collective. And what exactly is AXON Collective?
There's various ways to describe what we do, but the best way that I describe what we do is kind of like a blend between a think tank and a startup pre-incubator. Mm-hmm. So functionally what it is, it's a virtual space for people to share ideas, even share talents and information in their different areas of speciality. And really the whole goal is to help each other achieve whatever dream or goal it may be that we're each trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. So when you say this and you say think tank, obviously my first thought was straight to Shark Tank. Like, is that kind of like how it is? Like, y'all are in like a line and people come in and they like pitch their ideas. They're like, well, how does this work?
I wish that would be fun. No, so what it is, we have some virtual spaces, different communication platforms we use. And when people join up, they basically get access to that platform that comes usually along with some like non-disclosure agreements and stuff, so that people feel safe sharing their ideas. And the best way to describe the think tank part is there's just usually this constant bouncing of ideas off of each other. A great example is how one time we had someone post a cat video and talk about how cool the drone was, and that snowballed into an entire business venture. Just
a cat video.
Just a cat taking out a drone.
Okay.
And so that's the best way I could describe kind of the think tank aspect. Is it's just a bunch of people kind of putting their heads together and kind of thinking out of the box, encouraging each other to think in new ways.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I love that encouragement, because that's what really fosters the ideas. And
yes,
I guess y'all wouldn't be doing this if y'all didn't help encourage ideas.
For sure. Well, and definitely taking the positive side when it comes to ideas is a huge benefit. There is no such thing as a stupid idea.
Yeah,
just one you never shared.
How do you overcome that when you hear an idea and you're like, that's dumb? Like, for lack of better words, that's just like, because I'm sure there's some ideas that you're like, oh, okay, but like, how do you?
Liquid pie was one of those. Liquid
pie.
Yeah.
Oh, that's that sounds awful.
Yeah. Generally, my approach, and it differs from person to person, but I like to kind of find something about the idea I like, or even some abstract related vein that you could push that person down and encourage. How can we make this liquid pie better?
Yeah.
What can we do to make this better? Sometimes it snowballs.
We can give it breading.
Sometimes it snowballs right.
So what would be something you might say to somebody? Like, how could you make it better? Like, do you come up with an idea, or you let them come up with it? Is that just kind of
both? If I have an idea, I'll throw it in there.
Okay. Did you have an idea for the liquid pie? I'm curious.
No.
No,
I did not. And this was from one of my co-founders. We've known each other a long time, since college, and so when it's one of the co-founders, we will quite often just stop it there and say, let's move on.
Yeah.
But it just depends on the relationship.
Okay, cool. And so some of these people, you said, depends on, like, do you know them ahead of time, or are they just random people sometimes?
So just kind of step back. It started as 4 of us.
Okay.
We all lived in the same house. We were just kind of all splitting rent.
Okay.
Splitting the house up. And it started out adding only people that we knew to the network, and it's continually grown, and we've gone adding second and third degree connections as well. I believe we have members that none of us have actually met in person. It'll be, someone that one of us knew knows someone else, and so yeah, it's a pretty. We're working on diversifying further, but it's a diverse group of people.
Well, it's still a pretty new company, though. Still,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
How old are you guys again?
2 years.
2 years? Okay, yeah.
So
you got plenty of time to diversify later.
Yeah, well, and company it's always one of those words that I'm like, like think tank or
think tank.
Yeah.
Again, my bad idea, but I'm like, y'all should just all sit in a tank and just give
we do that every now and then.
Yeah.
I believe one time we got a big glass conference room at an airport that felt like a tank.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
just a fish tank, everybody walking by looking at you.
Yeah, and we'll periodically hold get-togethers where everyone's invited, and it'll be an in-person, just kind of a hangout party, whatever you want to call it, and use some agenda for developing particular ideas.
Yeah. That's really cool. Bringing people together, encouraging ideas.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's awesome.
I've been sitting here thinking about, man, that liquid pie idea, and I'm a teacher, so like you get some crazy ideas thrown out at you, and the goal is to not discourage their creativity.
Yep.
But there's sometimes you're just sitting there and you're like,
what?
I don't know if I should encourage this, and unfortunately, no, like one idea stands out to me right now. But it's just kind of, it'd be something along the lines of I had a student come up to me. He's like, "Mr. New, what's your last name?" And I'm like, it'll be an idea similar to that. I'm like, well, you just said that. So, good talk.
Yeah. Now, where I struggle a lot of times is when ideas start kind of building fantasy into them.
Uh-huh.
And, when you cross over from that realm of, like, here are actual possible things into the fantasy realm is when, like, that is where I'm always, where do you stop it?
Yeah. How far is too far?
Yeah, right.
So, speaking of ideas, one of the things, so after we had talked, I've been thinking, I'm like, because people come to you guys and they have these ideas, you guys help them brainstorm, and then if I believe it's up to them to go and make these ideas happen, correct?
Yeah, well, and that's where, generally speaking, it is expected that person is going to spearhead their idea if they really want to see it happen. The general goal, though, is that we would really like to get to a point where we have enough resources, both financial and human resources, behind us that when someone needs some help to get that ball rolling, that we have the ability to do that as a community. Yeah. And we've already seen that. We've had some very interesting ones recently kind of gain traction and get rolling, and through kind of community support for the idea and the person combined with that person's drive, they've been able to start some cool stuff.
What do you think? Well, I have a couple questions. First one, like, about how many of the ideas that you hear actually like start getting traction, like you said? Like out of 20, I don't know if you had to ballpark it.
Maybe out of 151.
One? Oh, wow. Yeah. Why do you think that is? So,
one thing that I will say is that we've definitely encouraged a culture where people feel comfortable sharing these ideas, and quite often one idea in and of itself isn't something that you could act on. Yeah. And part of what we feel like is really powerful about this think tanking is that I do have one piece of an idea that in and of itself isn't something that can be developed, and I might put 4 or 5 of those out, and somebody else will put 4 or 5 of those out, and somebody else, and pretty soon you kind of get this group of ideas that you can kind of massage and mix and eventually pull something out of that's an aggregate that you go, wow, that's powerful when you combine these ideas. Any single one of them on their own isn't, but together they make something really cool.
That's awesome, and I love the visuals there. It's like actually like picturing like mixing and like massaging. After they have these ideas and they've maybe the original idea wasn't the one, but it's like the conglomeration
Derived idea.
Derived idea.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm learning words. So the derived idea. What do you think might get in their way? I'm gonna give you a list, and these are ideas that, like, when I've had ideas, things have gotten in my way. I'm like, I want to do this, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And what do you think is like the biggest hurdle for a lot of people out of these, or if there's one that I haven't listed, what would that be? But that keep people from going after their dreams or achieving those ideas. So first one, money. Sometimes you just don't have the capital to get it started. Mm-hmm. Time. There's self-confidence. Haters. People shooting down your ideas. They're not as appreciative of your liquid pie. Always stuck in that planning phase. They're always planning to never take action. And then the last one, inability to problem solve. And those are all, like, when I've had certain ideas, I'm like, oh, this would be so cool to do, and, like, just various things that throughout the years that I've ran into as issues. Which one of those do you think was, like, the biggest?
From personal experience, I can tell you the ones just in what common. I've seen, commonly. Money eventually becomes one. And in an idea's lifetime, there usually does come a point at which money is the barrier, the hurdle you have to overcome. Although I generally find that some of these other ones kill it before it ever gets to the needing money part.
Okay.
Generally, time is a big one. Most of us have some sort of day job, family responsibilities, and, keeping a healthy work-life balance. So a lot of times to go off and develop these ideas on the side, they can become really time-intensive. So time definitely, I think, is probably the number one killer that I've seen for ideas.
Well, just don't sleep, right? No,
yeah, been there. That's not a fun place.
No.
And then one that definitely plagued us for a while was the always stuck in planning. Uh-huh. I guess it kind of traces back to that traditional, more formal business model where you have to have this business plan that thinks of every possibility and every contingency, and so you plan.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you get stuck in this habit of planning, and
you never do it.
Yeah. Taking that first leap, that's always the hardest part, is just taking a leap. At some point you got to take a leap, start doing, even if it feels like you have no idea what you're doing, and you're definitely not moving in the right direction, but you're moving.
Yeah.
And you're able to make those quick corrections, or pivots as we call them, to adjust that course so that you're eventually moving in the right direction.
Yeah. No, I like that. Just get started. Just do something.
Yeah.
I have a friend who says it's better to have it done than perfect.
Yeah.
And so
I think that's part of what's so powerful about being able to be an entrepreneur, or pursuing dreams here in America, is that we're allowed to fail.
Yeah.
And, that, I think that stuck in planning is often, you can trace that back to a fear of failure. You want to get it right. You don't want it to fail. And in a lot of the rest of the world, that kind of all goes back to that you only get one chance.
Yeah.
And once you failed, no one will ever believe in you again. Here in America, we have this very unique mindset. And in fact, investors love to see some failures on your plate. And we'll frequently ask,
really?
They'll want to know, what did you learn from those? These failures, these things that you tried, there was some output to what you didn't work, but what did you learn, and how are you going to prevent that from affecting what you're proposing doing now?
Yeah.
And so that's a really cool thing about being able to be an entrepreneur and a dream pursuer here in the United States.
Yeah, and I just found this whole idea very fascinating, because for a lot of my life, I was I grew up like a perfectionist, and so I never liked failing. And then it's only been recently that I've started to embrace that, and it's just very interesting, like, that how much I've grown from those failures, and just seeing and hearing that people look for the failures. They want to know, what have you learned? How are you going to overcome that? It's not necessarily like how perfect you are or how perfect your idea is or your execution.
Yeah.
It's what are you learning along the way.
And that's the really important, because nobody just leaves from the starting line day one knowing everything, having experience
that
they can draw on, because that's really important. And to make something succeed, quite often we're drawing on extensive experience, but you got to get that experience somehow. And so
gotta get the bruises yourself.
It's a cool analogy is like athletes. You're never going to get to a new goal or a new weight that you can lift without having pushed yourself to that breaking point, having tried and not been able to get it, and
failing several
times before you're finally able to get it. But then when you get it, that makes up for all those failures and more.
No, I like that analogy too, because not recently, but I've been going to the gym and experienced some of those myself. And so one of my goals was to deadlift 300 pounds or over 300 pounds, and so I get to 295, I'm like, and then 300, I'm like, I just could not do it.
Weights are tricky like that.
They are. And then just I'd keep working at it, and I'd go back and I'd try, okay, now I need to work out this type of muscle group, and eventually one day it just came up, I was like, what? And so but it was such a great feeling because of all those failures, and I was like, I did it.
Sure.
But now I'm sitting here. It's been about 2.5 weeks since I've been at the gym, and I gained 10 pounds because I ate too much on a cruise last week. So
but it was a cruise, so it was worth it.
Yes. I'm not ashamed. I had 3 appetizers, 2 entrees, and 2 desserts every night. I enjoyed it. And plus, every time you walk by the soft serve, you got to make sure it's still soft serve.
Sure.
It's good. So, I regret nothing. I'll work it back off. But, anyways, going back to the failure part, I just think that's such an important concept, and I struggle with that with some of my students because they have that perfectionist tendency that I had growing up, and I'm like, listen, take it from me, experience, you want to be able to learn from your failures. And
for me it was always there was, I guess, a certain flavor of that perfectionism of anytime there was a failure, you have to be able to spin it somehow. And it's a failure, but spin something else, or it was for some unforeseen reason, but being able to just accept a failure as I wasn't able to make it happen, and then do what we call a post-mortem, where you look back and kind of just retrospectively look back on the whole experience and go, what did we do right, and but more importantly, what did we do wrong? And
to focus more on how can I learn from those wrongs to make the next time better.
And then what could we have done to
continue
avoid
doing the right
those
things.
Exactly.
No, I like that. So obviously you're hearing a bunch of ideas, and you shared the liquid pie, but what is your least and what has been your favorite idea?
Favorite? I guess I'll start with my favorite.
It could be one you came up with too. So
no, actually, I do like ideas, but I really enjoy building off of ideas.
Okay.
I like taking things and making them better. So I like to take an idea someone's had and add my 10 cents to it and give it back here. I think it's better. But one of my buddies had and has had it's been a long time passion for virtual collaboration, and it's kind of this idea. Something magical happens when you get a group of people in a room, and whatever it may be you're collaborating on, whether it be idea bouncing or work or school or whatever it is. And both our backgrounds are software. And so it was kind of this idea, he called it collaboration labs. And it was this idea for a virtual space where you could empower people to collaborate in a really seamless fashion, whether that be through video, through text, through having a document open that you can all edit. And this was before Google Docs had their multi people being able to edit.
Which
before
is
a lot
great.
of it's fantastic. A lot of these tools have come out to enable this kind of thing, but the first time he pitched it to me was probably it was some time back, years, and there just wasn't anything out there like it, and I kind of really got behind that idea. That's actually what led us to AXON Collective in the first place, was this idea of fostering collaboration and being able to empower people to collaborate. And that kind of that snowballed into ideas and focusing on kind of the mental process of an idea and how an idea is born, how it's developed. And so kind of that idea of focusing on ideas, I guess, has been my favorite. And the tool set behind being able to empower that.
Dude, that's dope. I like it. I like it. My favorite idea that I've ever created is a flying car. Yeah. So that way you can, like, just fly over that traffic, like, ha!
Yeah.
Might have gotten some ideas from, but, like, has, like, fold-out wings and stuff. When I was 9 years old when I created it. I was like,
I thought it was at some of those Uber plans. Those
Uber plans.
Yeah,
like
Uber's got like these
the
flying car concepts that they've done. They claim they're going to build the first flying car. So
okay.
Who knows?
They got the idea for me.
Yeah.
Oh, 9-year-old Jacob. They found one of my drawings. No. I will have to look at those. Are those just open for the public, or?
Yeah, you can just Google the Uber flying car concept.
Yeah, I'm a little wary of that, but
it'll be a long time. Yeah, before FAA will never let it happen.
I'd rather have DeLoreans going around. So 88 miles an hour. That's all I need.
Yeah.
So, what do you think people have the hardest time overcoming with their ideas?
I think a lot of time it's the starting.
Mm-hmm.
Actually overcoming that mental block of just going for it. And
it's a big jump.
It is. It's hard to start. Once you've started, then keeping it up can be difficult depending on how draining it is, but I've always found in every idea we've thought about pursuing and looked into and developed and planned for, the hardest part has always been getting everyone involved to a place where everyone's mentally ready to jump.
Yeah.
And because there's always a whole combination of factors. There's money involved, there's time involved, there's that mental effort, there's, sacrifice of personal time, and a lot of times there's reputation and connections on the line, and you'll have a lot of people with a lot of different variations of those things at play.
Yeah.
And getting everyone to a place where they're ready to go, okay, let's jump and start doing something.
Yeah.
That's definitely, I think, probably the biggest one.
Okay. No, I agree, and that's, when I think about it, that's probably where my biggest hurdle is as well, so I concur. So just even starting like work assignments, sometimes I'm like, but once I start, I'm good.
I'm a huge procrastinator,
yeah.
That part's extra hard for me. But,
we just appreciate being under a time crunch. That's what that is. That's
well under pressure.
Yeah, we like that pressure. That's how I look at that and justify being a procrastinator.
That's fair.
So, what about you? So, what any dreams, goals that you have? Where do you want to see AXON going? I know you said having the finances to help. Wow, words just left my mouth, but they didn't vocalize. Having the finances to back some of these ideas.
Yeah. So, I guess personally, like, my passion has always been for building things. Mm-hmm. Ever since, when I was really little, it was Legos and Kinects, and
I love Legos.
I was very young when I discovered programming as kind of an outlet for being able to build something. It's a digital something, but you're building something.
Yeah.
And so my passion has always been for building and problem solving through building. And with the focus on software, kind of my tagline is finding profound everyday applications for technology.
Okay.
Or meaningful everyday applications for technology in everyday life. And that, personally, that's my dream, is just to do that the rest of my life.
Yeah. That's cool.
Kind of bringing it back to AXON, that is really in line with our mission of focusing on people, on empowering people, and on being able to help people bring impactful technologies into the world that will help everyday life for people.
Yeah.
And so long term, the goal is to be able to have the human resources and the financial resources to where when one of these ideas does come along and starts gaining some traction, that we can be an accelerator behind that and kind of jump behind the idea and help give it that initial push it needs. Small amount of financing, but usually even more importantly is people that are able to do things and help in areas that whoever it is behind that idea doesn't know how to.
No, I like that. That's dope. Been using that word dope a lot more recently, so I'm sorry if you're like, oh, he says that a lot. Yeah, it's becoming a new habit. Not sure if it's good or not.
Filler word.
But, yeah, it is. Man, that's... So if somebody wants to reach out to y'all and share an idea, is there like a process that they have to go through or like a screening?
Yeah, so generally the way we've done it is there are 2 tiers. We have kind of 2 tiers of participation. One is kind of what we call kind of like an open source tier where, pretty much anyone that would want to could join. It would mostly just be approaching us, whether it be through our website or a lot of times, more often than not, it's through some connection to someone that's already a part. And you can just join that tier, and it's generally accepted that anything you share in there is kind of like open source, that it's not protected by any documents or anything. And so that's kind of our entry level. And then what it originally was, and there's still that tier, kind of the next tier up, where you sign a non-disclosure agreement, basically saying that you're not going to steal the ideas people are sharing in there. And that's definitely invitation only. But so I mean, I've had people just approach me and say, hey, like, I've got this idea, I would love to, kind of be able to share it. And so that's kind of why we created that entry tier, to be able to freely bring people in.
Okay.
And, the goal really is to grow as broad and diverse as possible, just because the thought process benefits greatly from diversity of all kinds. And so that's kind of the goal, is to make it really accessible to people. Yeah.
Well, because the way you see one thing might not be how somebody else sees it, too. And so that
well,
different perspectives.
I'm not an engineer. I'm a software engineer, but I don't have expertise in thermodynamics or any of the traditional engineering modalities. And so I may have an idea that involves some engineering that I think is the engineering piece is trivial. Quite often I'll share that, or someone will share it thinking that, there's just this little engineering piece. Yeah. Someone with an engineering background will come up and go, whoa, hold on now, you don't realize how difficult that piece is, watch out. And that's what's really cool about it, is that you have a lot of software people, just because all of us that started it were in software and aviation. But you have software engineers, you have mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, you have people in marketing, you have people in design, just all different professions and specialities, people that are trained, and you're sharing these ideas in a public space, and when something's sparked in someone's mind, they're able to contribute in a way that's really meaningful, because normally to get input from an engineer, I would need to go hire an engineer just to know that there might be these caveats along the way. Yeah. Or, a designer or a software engineer.
Whereas this way, it just kind of happens automatically, and you're
it's kind of, we're all helping enrich each other's ideas and thought process, and it goes beyond ideas. I've learned so much about engineering, aviation, more recently agriculture, just through this idea sharing process. And something, it's enriching in that way too. A lot of times we have people that don't actually share anything and rarely contribute, but they really feel like they're enriched through that. Yeah. Being able to watch and listen and learn from people.
Yeah, and there's so much that we can learn from each other, that it's a shame that we don't do more of that collaboration. Yeah. Just because whether we think we know it or not, but we don't know everything. No. And so it's just very interesting. So I love this idea of everybody coming together and sharing their ideas, and that you guys encourage ideas no matter what your original opinion is of it. You're just trying to help nurture it and help, what can we do to make it better. Yeah. And I think that that's a fantastic attitude to have, and one that more of us should adopt. Well, all of us should adopt, really. You know?
Yeah, it's really great. And, sometimes it happens every now and then where you'll go down the road of whether it be debate or exploring an idea as an exercise more than anything. And that can get a little cringeworthy sometimes, splitting hairs, but it's all part of that creative process, though.
Yeah, it's much very necessary.
Yeah, for sure.
So, well, that's all my questions, all that we have for today. So, thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me.
Been very, very informational. I loved hearing about Axon and talking about liquid pie.
Pie. We're gonna make it happen.
Yeah,
we should make it happen.
I hope so. Because there's gonna be a time when I won't have any more teeth, and I'm gonna need that liquid pie. I appreciate that idea. So, thank you to all you listeners out there, and I hope y'all found some bit of this of value to you. And we just ask one simple thing: please share this with your friends, family, whoever. So, with that, thank you everybody again for listening, and have a good night. And if you only learn to do one thing, learn to make a difference. Y'all have a good night.